I've been training Next Gen about 6 years now. I'd say, is that recording? Yeah. I've been training Next Gen about 6 years. I started training MMA when. Do you want to shut that over a bit more?
That's alright, it's the background noise makes it more lively.
So I've been training here about 6 years. It's alright. Had my first fight out of here about 6 months into coming, because I just started training a little bit before that in Southport, where I'm from, just at like a small local gym. So all in all, I'd say I've probably done about 10 years of MMA training, but 6 years proper dedicated, like out of a good gym.
Is that when did you turn pro then?
So I turned pro in 2019. So I had my first amateur fight in 2016. So it was 3 years fighting amateur. And then turned pro 2019. So
you were here pretty quick before you started fighting amateur.
Yeah, I started fighting amateur, like I say, probably 6 months into training here. But I've done a lot of no worries.
Oh no, that's your man, fucking hell.
I've done a lot of training before that, you know what I mean? Like I've done a bit of freestyle wrestling and other little things. Like I say, I was going to a small gym by mine in Southport, so I wasn't like 6 months in beginner when I had my first amateur fight. I'd already been doing about 4 years of martial arts training. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's cool. So like, was there any fighters or anything you idolised or anything got you into the sport?
See you later, lad.
That got you into the sport?
Early days, I used to like all the alpha male team. I used to like Chad Mendes and like Uriah Faber and that, just because they were the smaller weight classes. And I was always a little guy. And then I realised they were all shite.
Just Chad though.
Yeah. But so that was like my early days, sort of getting into them. I used to like Chael Sonnen a lot as well. When I first started watching the sport. The first UFC I actually watched was when Chael Sonnen got beat by Anderson Silva. It was their second fight. I think it was like UFC 148 or something. That was the first one I watched.
He didn't do as well as the first fight.
No, he didn't do as well as the first fight. But I went back and watched that afterwards, and then I developed a bit of I was a bit of a fan of Chael Sonnen's then after that. But I never really idolised any of them. Do you know what I mean? I was just like a fan of the sport, so those were the fighters that I'd watched. But I wouldn't really say I hadn't.
Well, when I was young, I'm 22, right, and I got the first UFC game when I think I was 9. And it was Chuck Liddell and Forrest Griffin, and I got really into them. And then and nobody knew who they were. Nobody knew it, and probably still don't know them. And Forrest Griffin was always the one I idolised. And I remember I did a boxing fight a few years ago in my local football club, and I sent the boxing fight to him, and he reviewed it and stuff, but I never posted it because I was just
Forrest Griffin did?
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
He said I won though, but I didn't actually win it, so I didn't want to post it then, look like a hater, you know what I mean? But
well, if he's saying you won though, lad, it's fucking.
I know that.
It's a bit of validation, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It was when you're idolised. So.
That is that. So, what do you think? Why do you think, like, ever since your last fight against Wooden, that you've had like such a hard time getting a fight?
Yeah. This been like without a doubt the toughest 15 months of my life. Outside of MMA, anything that I've had to deal with this year has been really difficult. Obviously, it's my first career loss as a pro. Then you're going into the start of this year, I injured myself, so I wasn't able to return. I wanted to fight on the Manchester card that they put on in April, that a lot of my teammates fought and won on. So I was forced out of that due to an injury. Then I finally got back to training, and I took a fight in July against Arik Magarian, and that was on the 20th anniversary card. He never showed up to the weigh-in, so that was actually a day before I was supposed to weigh in.
Was there no order and he just didn't show up?
No, well, there was some problem with his medicals or something. He tried to forge a medical. I'm not really sure. I personally think it was something to do with the weight. I reckon he was struggling to make weight and he come up with an excuse. But then we offered to fight him at featherweight and it just never materialised. So anyway, that situation happened. I never ended up getting to fight. Then he turned around and said to me, like, the next show is going to be in November, but we can get you a good opponent for that. And like, obviously they were apologetic for the fight falling through, and I've been out for so long already. So he said, here's Cameron Else for the 4th of November. It's a UFC vet, got a win over Paddy. It's like a bit of a name in terms of UK MMA. So I'm thinking, perfect, this is what I've been waiting for. Like, all this shit I've had to go through is going to pay off when I get to beat like a good opponent and like catapult myself right back into the top of like European MMA. About a month out from that, Cameron Else pulled out. Again, I'm not sure of the reason. I didn't hear of him being injured. I didn't hear of anything. He said he wanted to push the fight back or something like that. I don't know. So anyway, Cage Warriors then went on to try and match me with like 10 different fighters for that date. Not one of them took the fight, and we're not talking about like random guys from Europe. We're talking about active Cage Warriors fighters who were all competing regularly, who were all, you know, well respected, good winning records. Like, guys that you'd assume want to go on to the UFC and have good careers.
Yeah.
So for them, well, for me, I'm thinking, I know I can beat them, and they're a good name, so that catapults me forward. Every single one of them didn't want to fight me because they didn't believe in their abilities and didn't think they could beat me on, say, 4 weeks' notice or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're a professional athlete. What are you doing if you can't take a fight on 4 weeks' notice, especially around October, November time? There's fight shows around that date. So anyway, went through a whole list of names, never ended up happening. So then Cage Warriors said to me, we're going to put you on the Manchester card on the 12th because it gives us an extra week to match you.
Yeah.
And then it got to like the Tuesday of that fight week, and Ian Dean rang me and was like, well, we're not having any luck here, no one's taking a fight with you. So that's that. And at first I thought, like, this means I'm going to be out for even longer. I'm not going to be able to fight until March next year. Like, all these things going through my head, I'm thinking, like, the work I've put in this year is basically, it's not gone to waste, but it's frustrating that I'm not going to get to show all the improvements I've made, and I'm going to have to just be put on the back burner even longer. And then he said to me, New Year's Eve, we're doing a show, so you can fight on that.
Yeah.
And straight away I was like, yeah, 100%. Like, I want to get one in this year, so jumped to that opportunity, and now I'm not getting me Christmas, but I get to celebrate on the 31st with a win. So
you get your new year, hopefully.
That's it, lads. Yeah. So that's what we're looking forward to now.
So hopefully it will. God willing, it all happens, because I know you've had a lot of bad luck with it. Like.
Yeah, definitely.
So you were here for the rise of MMA in Liverpool. You've been here for so long. So how do you think? Like, how have you noticed? Like with the likes of Paddy and Molly, like, how have you noticed how like the sport's gone and how successful the gym's gone?
Yeah, it's massive. Even from like little conversations you have with like, so say for example, like I might be talking to, I don't know, one of my friends' parents or my girlfriend's parents, and like they know who Paddy the Baddy is, they know who Meatball Molly is. Like a couple of years ago, MMA, you just about did know who Conor McGregor was, maybe, if that, do you know what I mean? And now I've got people coming up to me and saying, oh, you know Paddy, don't you train with Paddy and Molly? It's just crazy to see like the reach that they've got. Do you know what I mean? I think they bring in so many sort of different eyes on the sport as well, because they're such characters that like it draws in attention from literally, like I'm saying, my mate's mums know who Paddy the Baddy is. Do you know what I mean? So in that sense, I can definitely see the growth. It's been good to see the classes here every night are absolutely chocker now. Like on a good night, on a Tuesday or Thursday, the jiu-jitsu class, the MMA class, we're getting like 60, 70, 80 people coming in the gym. We're having to split it up between downstairs and upstairs for the mats. So yeah, you can definitely see the growth of the sport, and it's good to see. I think, especially as well with Leon Edwards now being a champion, I think that's just going to continue. Yeah, definitely. Like the UK MMA scene is going to be thriving and producing a lot more talent over the next sort of like 5 years. I think 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, well, it's all positive. Like it's great to see that.
Definitely.
But like the likes of Ireland, we're from like there's this gym, and then like the Amherst gym in Birmingham. I don't know, I can't remember the name of it.
Renegade.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, in Ireland, there's really just SBG, which is in Dublin, and Team Torres. You know, and Liam Court trains here as well from Team Torres.
Right.
So like, even though there's Conor McGregor and there's Paul Hughes as well, he's just sort of rising Cage Warriors.
Yeah.
And then there's James Gallagher, and he's in Bellator, but he's in SBG Dublin. Like, but there's still not as much as you think there would be. You know, for like Conor McGregor to be the biggest athlete in the sport, there's still not as much of a push. But and they've got 4 or 5 gyms probably in Liverpool now, really. Like, so
they're all pushing through.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
I don't know what that's down to really. Obviously Conor was massive, and I think that did have an impact on Irish MMA. I think it definitely sort of like spurred the scene on a little bit. Probably the population's less, isn't there? There's a lot less people in Ireland than there is compared to the UK, so that's probably a factor. But I definitely think now that you see the likes of Paul Hughes, Ian Gary's in the UFC I know he lives out in Florida, but there's a couple of Irish talent coming through, and I think that's just going to continue as well. I think all from like Europe and this side of the UK and Europe, do you know what I mean? I feel like we're going to be producing a lot more talent over the next few years. We're catching up with the likes of Russia and USA and Brazil, what are dominating the sport at the minute.
Well, the thing is, I think Ireland is like so heavily focused on boxing, and especially amateur boxing. I think it really did the sport. Not to be here, but I have a real problem with it. And there's about 50. Well, like the province I'm from is Ulster. There's about 50 Ulster champions.
Right.
There's about 12 All Ireland champions at every weight. And it just makes people, I think it gives people a false sense of confidence, and then they'll go by the time they're 18, 19, and then they'll get sick of it, and they'll just not transfer it into any other sport. You know, and it's just, I think that's the real problem with it. Like, is that boxing is so heavily focused by older people that watch boxing. You know, MMA is relatively new.
I think it's a generational thing, isn't it? Eventually, I think you'll see now where people are starting to be more influenced by MMA fighters than boxers. Like you say, the kids that are coming through the ranks now of boxing, probably their dads been into boxing and put them into the sport. But like when eventually this generation, now our generation, start having kids, we're going to be putting them into MMA, you know what I mean, jiu-jitsu classes early on, so I feel like you'll see a bit of a change then as well.
Have you been in talks to fight like Martigoni again or anything for the title?
Yeah, I've not heard anything, and he obviously called me out after his last fight, so I feel like that fight is going to be somewhere down the line for me. I've got this fight on the 31st against an Italian kid, so I feel like it's almost good to, you know what I mean, leapfrog off that to then call out the champ as well. But obviously, I'm not looking past that fight. I've got to get in and get a win for myself. I wouldn't like to go and compete for the belt last year, get beat, have 15 months out, and then my next fight be Martignoni for the belt again. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I want to. Although I mean, technically, I already have earned that shot because I've got a win over him, and he wants to redeem that. But for my own personal sake, I want to get back in there, get on a winning streak again, and then we'll go. But it's actually quite an exciting time, I think, for my division. There's a couple of names floating around now that I want to compete against next year. So Martignoni's definitely one of them because he's got the belt. Because I've already beat him, it's not as enticing. Caelan Loughran's there as well, and I have beat him at amateur, but that's 4 years ago. Yeah, it was at amateur, doesn't count as much. And he's making a bit of noise, and he's a cocky little bastard. So it'd be quite nice, I think, to compete against him again and beat him. So we'll see what happens, but there's definitely a few options next year.
Yeah, so if you were to win your next fight, and then would you go straight from Martigoni and say you win that, hopefully, what would be after that then, if you were a Bantamweight champion?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I feel like as soon as I win the belt, I'm going to get signed to the UFC, just because of the noise of the gym, the fact that I've finished all my fights. Like, I feel like I'm the type of talent that the UFC want to sign, especially with my teammates making so much noise at the minute. Like, I feel like that's just the minute I get that opportunity and I win the belt, that's going to be my ticket out of there. Do you know what I mean? So whether that is beating Martignoni or whether they do Loughran and Martignoni next year, I personally think Martignoni will beat Loughran, to be honest.
Right, okay.
And my only concern there is, would he then go on to the UFC and leave a vacant title? Which I don't mind. If that's the case, obviously the title's the main goal, but
well, you could chase him, you could do a Pereira, and you could chase him across the sport.
Yeah, chase him to the UFC and beat him there. It's not a bad shout, actually.
Yeah,
could go that way. But there's a lot of options now. Do you know what I mean? So it's quite an exciting time for me, because where I've kind of sat out when I was on my run, there wasn't really much going on with the bantamweight division. Do you know what I mean? I was kind of taking out. I mean, at the time, Martignoni wasn't the name that he is now. Brian Bouland is a bit of a veteran. No one's really that interested in him. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously Wooden was making a bit of noise, but now I've had this 15 months out, the division's kind of picked up a little bit. There's a few new names, a few new faces, so I feel like it's good for me to inject myself right back in, and just take over.
Was there no word of Wooden or anything about rematch?
Well, Wooden's gone to the PFL now, hasn't he? Yeah, he's left Cage Warriors, so yeah, I mean, obviously as a competitor, that's something that I want to get back. I would love to fight him again, but I'm not hell-bent on that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not.
Well, that's the best way.
I've learnt my lessons from that fight. I've taken it away. I've taken the emotion away from it. So I don't really have any emotion towards him. Do you know what I mean? It was more just that performance. But I've corrected all those things now. So in my own head, I'm okay with that. I've put it to bed. It would be nice to go and put him to bed. And do you know what I mean?
Do you look back at that fight? Like, that's the best way to be, is not obsess over him, but obsess over yourself.
Yeah.
But like, do you look back at that fight and like in that fight, like I seen it about a week ago. UFC posted it, or a few weeks ago. UFC posted it. There's a lot of shots to the back of the head and stuff. Or like, do you see that as in like a nitpick, or can you not worry about that sort of stuff?
I don't worry about that. I had the complete wrong approach in fighting him, and I take extreme accountability for losing. Like, it'd be so easy for me to go, oh, look at that, it's bad reffing. There was loads of shots to the back head, but then that's not my attitude towards it at all. I'm taking ownership over it. I made a lot of mistakes. I should beat him easily. It shouldn't even be close. I mean, the first couple of rounds, it wasn't close. I was dominating him. You know what I mean? And he landed, about 4 shots? They were just good shots. And then he landed about 10 to the back of the head as well. But
and when I seen that fight, I seen Paddy comment that underneath it too. And I was like,
well, I mean, that is a factor, obviously. But at the same time, like, I wasn't happy with how I performed anyway. I should be finishing him, and I should be doing it a lot easier than how I sort of made it. But like I say, I've corrected all those things, and like, it's having that accountability what allows you to grow. Like, if I could just go, you just hit me in the back of the head, I don't need to change anything. I was robbed, I was cheated. Do you know what I mean? That wouldn't serve me well at all. But like, looking at it how I have done, taking away what I need to, and then putting it into practice and growing from it, that's gonna serve me better in the long run, isn't it? So
yeah, well, that's the best way. Either win or you learn, as they say.
That's it. It's cliche, but it's fucking so true.
Well, how did people from home, like when you, like in 2016 or 2016, when you wanted to become a fighter and you wanted to be pro, how did people at home react to you?
Do you know what? I got a lot of support. Like my family, especially, have like been absolutely great. My mum and dad have never once said to me like, "Do you not want to get a real job? Do you not want to, do something a bit more secure?" Like they've just backed me 100% of the way. I think that's down to as well. They can see how bad I want it, and they can see how hard I'm working towards this. And like I've actually got a pretty good chance of making it with the fact that I'm talented, and like I said, I've got all the attributes of someone that's going to make it. And yeah, they can see how much energy I put into it. So I've had great support from that sense from me siblings, my family, my girlfriend, my friends. They all completely back me and support me. Obviously, there's like the odd few times. I remember in school, like, but again, we were kids at this point. I was probably like 15, 14, maybe walking around saying, "Yeah, I'm going to fight in the UFC," and people would be like, "Pigs are going to fly, mate." You know what I mean? Are you having a laugh? But since I've started on the journey, it's actually been like I've received a lot of support. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been good.
So you haven't faced people that being like, see if you were on, like, if you just went out or something, and people would be like, "Oh, fight me." Yeah, I haven't faced none of that there sort of stuff.
No, do you know what? I don't go out a lot. Big, like. Yeah, I don't go out a lot. Maybe if I was out in town more, people might, because I know that guys probably would want to like test themselves. Like, for example, some trolls just come in and tried to spar Paddy because he was saying that he's shit on Instagram and this and that, and then Paddy said, "Well, come to the gym and spar me," and he's turned up. I don't know whether he maybe just wants a bit of fame or whether he actually genuinely believed that he could beat Paddy. Do you know what I mean?
It's a bit of a mix. Well, that's what I like. Me from wrestling at home, and I would be popular from wrestling at home. Like, but that was years ago. I done that, and I still heard people talking to me all the time. And people used to like, you walk up, and I done music before, I done rap before, and like people are like, "Oh, rap song for me," or wrestling me, and it's annoying. And it really made little of doing the whole thing. Yeah. So I was just wondering if people like came to you with that sort of attitude, and they would put you off it. Like, like in May time, I was on the night out. And cut this out because nobody knows this now, but I was on the night out and one of my mates, like, this guy started fighting him because he thought he was somebody else and he wasn't doing anything, and I pulled him back. I didn't fully have him in a rear naked, but I just pulled him back and he fell back down, and like three of his mates, like a mate, there's video, and a mate came in with like just kneed me in the face, and there was three of them hit me, but I just stood up and went away after a few seconds. But it was like they did that because like they all knew who I was, and like, because like known for like being big and being a wrestler at home, but like I'm not ever violent towards people, and I was just wondering, any people try and take advantage of it like that there view?
Well, coming from Southport, right, it's quite a small town, so everyone around our age knows each other, do you know what I mean? And I'm Sam with pretty much everyone where I'm from, so I've never had any dickheads come up and like try me. Another thing is I don't go out a lot, so like I literally go maybe the Costa for the coffee, or I'll go to the Starbucks.
That's my nickname, Costa.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Well, there you go. So, I never really put myself in those situations. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. My real name's Dara, by the way. I'm King Costa on Instagram.
Right, okay, I was thinking, King Costa. Is that?
That
why? Because you get Costa coffee a lot.
No, it was. Have you ever seen the film Project X? That's the main character.
Oh, Costa,
and then when I was 12, I changed my name on Facebook to Costa.
Project X, who's in? It's not Jonah Hill in that.
No, it's all the same gang made it. Like, no one really that famous on it. They all sort of flopped after, but it's the big party film.
Yeah, I have seen it. Yeah. It's Costa the fella whose house it is.
No, he's the one who plans it.
Right, okay.
I think the man owns a house called Thomas.
Right,
okay.
I've
seen it.
Right, so.
But yeah, that's how I got it, because I was just thinking there, I was like, I haven't even told you my real name. So my real name's Dara Hockey.
Dara, okay.
Yeah, right, so it's not Costa. I wish it was.
Okay, sweet. Let's get it changed legally to that.
No, people always said that to me, but no, I don't, because I remember, because I wanted to do music when I was young, and I was like, Dara will not go over as a stage name at all. No. It's just too soft, and I was like,
sounds more like a host of like a fucking breakfast show.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And then I was like, when I was 12, I changed my Facebook name to Gaddafi. Do you remember him? Colonel Gaddafi. It was like a meme at the time where it was like me and my cousin changed our name to Dara Gaddafi, and then I was like, that's just bad, lad. And then changed it to Costa, and it stuck.
Right. Okay.
So with your next fight, like, how have you prepared for it now? You're 5 weeks out, and when did you get the announcement and stuff?
So I found out about that the week of the Manchester card. So what's that? The 12th of November. So that gave me that was about 8 weeks out. Now obviously I've just done like back to back fucking fight camps all this, like pretty much all this year. Yeah, I've been in a fight camp, so I kind of eased off for a couple of weeks. Like I'm still just only starting to pick it back up now, really. because, like I say, you don't want to burn out. I've been training for the fight for so long. I've had that date in mind, and then that date. So, yeah, for me it was kind of just like easing off, not redlining. My weight's really low. I think a good thing is because I've been in camp for so long, I've sort of changed my body composition, so I'm really light at the minute. So my weight cut is probably going to be easier than ever. Do you know what I mean? I think that's down to like consistently being in a calorie deficit for like the fucking last 4 months. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like that's going to serve me well, because now I'm eating pretty much my maintenance calories, and I'm taking training a little bit easier. Obviously, I'm going to pick it up again the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I feel like it's going to be a lot less taxing on my body getting down to bantamweight. And I feel like my mindset for this one is to just come in fresh, relaxed. I've trained all year for the fight. I've done probably 300 rounds of sparring this year. I've done countless rounds of wrestling, countless S&C sessions, runs, all that. So I'm fit and primed and ready to go now. For me, it's just about getting to the cage fresh, do you know what I mean? Not worn down, and go in and put on a serious performance.
Yeah, no, that's what I was worried about, because you've had so many fights. I was wondering, were you in full count? Like, were you in full count that whole time? Or?
Pretty much. I mean, I had like obviously spurts of deloads and stuff. But that's the way I think now, going forward, this is how I'm going to be. Like, there's no reason to take massive amount of times off. I had a 10-day break in summer because I went on holiday with my girlfriend, and then I went away with the lads like the day after. Other than that, I've been in the gym every day this year. Yeah. But obviously, I go through waves of training intense, bringing it down, training intense, bringing it down. So it's kind of just like I'm following that sort of program now of having a 4 weeks intense, a little deload week, 4 weeks intense, a little, and my body's responding really well to that. So. Yeah, like I say, I'm going to come into this one feeling fresh and feeling full of energy.
Well, like, you want to stay really active, like, and be that way. Well, is that, like, have you made that evident to Cage Warriors, where it's like, after this fight now that I've got it finally, like
yeah,
you push on?
I think they know that by the fact that every fucking name they've offered me, I've said yes to. Like I say, we got 10 lads for that November 4th card, another few names for the Manchester one, and we've just repeatedly said yes to every single one. So they know, and we've got a good, close relationship with Cage Warriors. You know what I mean? They know how we operate, and they know that I'm game to fight whoever, whenever, and they know I stay in shape. So yeah, I think after this one, they've released a few shows for next year. I haven't really paid much attention to that yet.
I've seen a few. There's one in Dublin.
Yeah, there's one in Dublin in April. Yeah, so perhaps that we'll see. But obviously, I'm just focusing on the 31st now. Like, I've got to get back in there for myself, get this win, and then we'll go from there. But everything's riding on that for me at the minute, so I'm not really seeing past that day.
You're not letting yourself look past it. That's the best way to be. Like, you don't want to overload, and you don't want to look past them. Like, it's the same thing with the champion now that you've already beat him. Yeah. You, like you said, you might have a habit of already looking past
this guy.
And underestimating.
It's a completely different fight. Like, I think my next opponent, he poses a different challenge to me that I haven't seen before. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. All right. I think I'm miles better than him, and I'm going to absolutely smoke him. But that's confidence derived from the hard work I've been putting in. That's not arrogance. Like, I'm not looking past him at all. I've watched him. I know his skill set. I've watched all his fights that are available on YouTube, and like, I know what I've got to do to beat him. So that is the main task at hand. Because, say for example, I do look past him now, and I'm not focused on that, and I'm thinking about Martin Yoni, thinking about the rest, and he comes and he's the toughest fight in my life. Like, it's not going to serve me well, is it? Thinking ahead. So he's getting all my concentration now, and then after that, we'll deal with the rest of them.
Well, and so with Cage Warriors now being like so big, and after Cage Warriors, would you think if you won this and you got an offer from like Bellator, would you think of going to Bellator instead of UFC?
No, my goal is clear. It's Cage Warriors belt, UFC. Like, that's the path I want to take. That's the path Paddy took. That's the path Molly took. That's the path all those guys are doing. You can see now Cage Warriors is almost like the next gen show. Do you know what I mean? Like, every show we've got guys on. We're getting wins on every show, so that's sort of like, that's a proven pathway. And even going back to my amateur career, like pretty much all my amateur fights are on Cage Warriors, do you know what I mean? So I'm loyal to that promotion, and I feel like that's the best place for me to be in now to catapult my career going forward. So my plan is Cage Warriors belt, UFC, and that's that.
Well, you've used, like, in your finishes and your fight stuff, you've used like really, really good grappling, and like, to be able to finish people ground and pound and submissions. Is there anything that you want to progress on, or is there anything that's changed a lot since your last fight? It's been so long ago. Yeah,
obviously, that's a good. There's pros and cons to having so much time out. Like, I've developed my skills a lot in the last 15 months, and people are going off my last couple of fights. So I mean, the last fight I won was in June 2021. So if people are watching that to sort of see where my strengths are, you're coming maybe 18 months after that to now, where I'm at, my strengths are completely different. Do you know what I mean? And everything's evolved. Obviously, the goal is to be as well-rounded as possible. I think if you look at the best in the world, they can do absolutely everything. Like, my favourite fighter to watch in the minute is Volkanovski.
Yeah.
And he can out-grapple anyone. He can defend takedowns. He can get takedowns. He can strike. He can kickbox. You know what I mean? He can do absolutely everything. So that's my goal, is to be the perfect, well-rounded mixed martial artist, and that's what I'm heading towards now. Obviously, I do excel in the grappling area. That's no secret. You can see that from all my wins being submissions or like grappling based positions. But yeah, I definitely don't lack in other areas. I just excel in that one. You know what I mean?
Well, like Volkanovski and stuff, like, would you look like he's going up a weight now? He's going up the lightweight. Would you think of going up the featherweight or anything? Yeah,
eventually. I think that's not something I'd be opposed to. I train with featherweights all the time. Like, most of my training partners are featherweights. You know what I mean? So, I would definitely do that. I don't struggle to make bantam, so there's no real incentive at the minute. Do you know what I mean? It'd have to be for a bigger fight, or maybe say down the line when I'm in the UFC, maybe take a short notice fight at featherweight, or do you know, something like that. But for now, like, I make bantamweight comfortably. And
what would your walking weight be?
My walk around weight, like, at the minute, it's I'm probably like 68k at the minute. Do you know what I mean? Which is light for me. Like, I normally walk around between 70 to 72 kilo, depending, do you know what I mean, on how far out I am. The last time I weighed 68 kilo was a week out from the fight against Wooden. I was this weight now, and now I'm 5 weeks out and I'm this weight. Do you know what I mean? So that's just what I mean. I feel like my body composition's changed. I've still kept onto all the muscle, but I'm very lean, and I feel comfortable walking around at this weight. I'm eating like 2,500 calories a day, do you know what I mean, to maintain this. So it's I'm in a good spot.
So when will you start to get the like super weight cut in then, or do you just hope to gradually be?
Yeah, I mean, like, right now I'm probably eating in a slight deficit, but not enough to really notice it, like, energy level wise. So my weight's going to continue to gradually drop. I probably won't get any lower than like 67 kilos, 66 and a half kilos, probably the bottom that I can get to. And then we'll do the weight cut phase from there. So obviously fight week is like, you have to follow a certain protocol. You have to reduce the sodium in the diet, reduce the fibre in your diet, reduce the carbs in your diet, and that in itself shifts quite a bit of weight. And then you do the final acute weight cutting phase, which is the baths and the towels and stuff, the night before you weigh in. But I feel like all that's just going to be so smooth this time around. Cause
how is that not, like, how is the baths and how is doing all that stuff?
Depends on, like, you can complain about it, but it's got to be done. Do you know what I mean? I've never struggled. It's always, especially when I'm in the baths and towels, I'm thinking I'm really close to the fight now. I'm really close to weighing in, so that bit's always been easy for me. Do you know what I mean? It's the far out bit, like watching your calories and watching what you eat. What I used to struggle with now, it's just become like a lifestyle. So the whole thing is just like, it's just part of it, isn't it? I don't really. Again, I'm not going to attach any sort of emotion to it, like, oh, I can't wait to go and binge out after a fight, or do this, or I don't want to do the baths. Like, it's all just, that's just part of the game. And like, this time round, I think it's going to be very smooth and easy on my body, and then you'll see that in the performance. I'll have like bags and bags of energy because I won't have strained myself to make weight.
Well, do you, like, in between pumps, you don't, like, you're not really a foodie sort of like Paddy, is it? You're not really into it like
don't get me wrong, I like food. You know what I mean? I'm not some like weirdo who just eats like plain chicken and broccoli all the time. I like to go out and enjoy my food, but I think genetically I'm maybe slightly gifted in that I can get away with eating a bit of shit and I won't put on a lot of weight. I must have a fast metabolism, but I know when to cap it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'll have a few days of pigging out, but realistically, like, I just don't feel good eating loads of shit. You know what I mean? Especially when you go from eating healthy for so long, and then you go and have like a mad 2 weeks of eating shit. You feel it in your body. You feel all the inflammation. You feel stiff. You feel like slow. You're farting loads, burping. It's horrible. Do you know what I mean? So I'll obviously enjoy a bit of food after my fight, but it won't be crazy. I'll be getting right back and staying in shape.
Yeah, it's because you want to get another fight and stuff.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. The taste of victory tastes better than the taste of a Big Mac. Do you know what I mean? So. That's that's what I'll scram on. Victory.
That's all the questions I have there for today. That's
a
great interview.
Nice.
Really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. Sorry about fucking